You've been hearing about Claude Code everywhere. People are building apps from their terminal, shipping features in minutes, and you're finally ready to try it out. So you open the docs and you immediately have a lot of questions. Which plan is right for you? How do you install it? And once you install it, how do you use Claude Code properly? This video answers all of that. I will help you pick the right plan, walk you through the installation process step by step, and show you everything that you need to know to get started with Claude Code today. Before you install anything, you need the right Anthropic account, because in free tier you don't have access to Claude Code. So let's talk about which plan makes the most sense for you. So you have three options. First, you have the Pro plan, and you have to pay $20 per month for this plan, and for most beginners this plan makes the most sense, because with this plan you not only get access to Claude Code, you can also get access to Claude web and mobile app as well. And with this plan you also get access to Sonnet 4.6 and Opus 4.6, which is like their most complex, most capable model for complex reasoning. If you're building small to medium apps or side projects and you just want to try out Claude Code, then this plan makes the most sense for you. Once you understand how Claude Code works, then you can think about the other plans, and then you can think about upgrading to other plans like Max plan, which has like 2 tiers, the 5x users, which is like you can get 5 times more users than the Pro plan, and it costs $100 per month. And you also have 20 times more users plan, which costs $200 per month. For $100 plan, if you already know that you're going to be using Claude Code, then go with the $100 plan, because this is definitely a value for the money. I personally use this plan and it gives me a lot of headroom, and I can work almost all day and almost never run out of credit. And if you really don't want to worry about users limit and stuff like that, you can go with Max plan for the you can go with the 20 times more users plan for $200. This is also a good plan for you if you don't want to worry about any limits. Although you can still technically hit this limit, but most likely for your use case, you are not gonna hit the limit for this. And you can also go for pay-per-use like API plan, but that is more complicated and hard to predict the cost of that plan. Basically, you have to pay upfront to try out Claude Code. In summary, if you're a beginner, if you want to try out Claude Code, I'd recommend going for the Pro plan. And once you see that Claude Code is becoming your primary coding tool, then you can go for the $100 plan. And if you see that you're hitting the usage limit on the $100 plan, which most likely you won't unless you're a power user or you're building a lot of apps and coding almost like in 8 or 10 IDEs, then you're most likely gonna have to upgrade to the $200 plan. Once you pick your plan, continue with your account setup. Once that account setup is done, you can finally start installing Claude Code. So once your account is set up, you can now finally think about installing Claude Code. So there are multiple ways you can install Claude Code. The easiest way is to use their native installer. Before you could use Node.js and other ways to install Claude Code, but now they have a native installer, and it is the best way to install Claude Code because it also sets up auto update configuration so that you can always update Claude Code easily and get access to the latest feature, because they're always like every day they're releasing new features. So to set up Claude Code natively, all you gotta do is copy this command. If you're in Windows, you might have to do some additional steps and also have to make sure that you have Git installed on your Windows. So I'm gonna show it on Mac. So just copy this command and I'm gonna paste this in my terminal. And once you run this command, it's gonna download the Claude binary and put it in your path, and also set up auto update configuration, so that you can always update Claude with just Claude install and it will automatically update it. So once that installation is done, I'm gonna clear it because I already have this installed in my machine, so I'm not gonna install it again. Once the installation is done, just restart your IDE so that your path can pick up a Claude command. So you can verify the installation by typing in Claude.js version, and it's gonna show you which version of Claude Code you are currently in. As you can see, I'm on this version of Claude Code. So now you have Claude installed in your computer, you can start using Claude Code. To run Claude Code, you just have to type Claude, and it will ask you for permission to verify that you want to give Claude access to this terminal. So I'm just going to escape because I have a personal account and a company account. I'm going to use my personal account. And as I go through it, when you run it for the first time, you'll see this UI asking you to pick your theme. I'm going to go with dark theme, and it's going to ask you to login method. You have to authenticate Claude Code with your Anthropic account. So you have three options: Claude Code with subscription, Pro, Max, Team, or Enterprise; Anthropic console account, which is API usage billing; and third-party platform if you have your own hosted version of Claude Code. So we just set up the Claude account subscription, so you can just click on that. So once you click on it, it's going to ask you to authorize your login. So just click on authorize and you should be logged in to your console. And there you go. Now we are logged in. So it's going to ask you some additional questions, like Claude can make mistakes, and also there's also prompt injection risk. So make sure you only run code that you trust. So I'm gonna hit enter to continue, and you're gonna see the recommended settings, and you can also have your own setup. I'm just gonna go with the recommended settings, and boom, now we're in with our Claude Code account. Claude is ready for you to serve. So as you can see, it shows welcome to where is your account name. As you're gonna see, there's like Claude model that we have, like Sonnet 4.6 with medium effort. You get to select how much effort you want Claude to take to answer your prompt or write code. And also our account info, like we're using Claude Max account, and also of course your organization and the email that you have, and also tips for getting started and recent activities. So now we don't have any recent activities as you are setting up the account for the first time. Before using Claude Code, let's see what is the capability or the commands or the things that Claude Code has that we need to use in order to get the best usage out of it. So first you can see commands, all the commands available. So you can type / to see all the available commands that Claude has. So for example, I think the prominent one is the init that you use to initialize a Claude MD file, which is like your code base documentation for Claude, which is the most important file that you can have for Claude to give context of your code base. And you also have clear to clear conversation history and free up context. Context is very important. You want to make sure that you are always freeing up your context window to get the best results out of Claude. And you also have compact, which is also the same thing as summarizing your context into smaller chunks so that you get more usage of your context window and better outputs. And you also have a /help command that will tell you like what you need to do for all the commands that is available in Claude Code. You can simply click on escape to escape this window, to close this window, close that dialog. You can also click on /model to select between different models. For example, right now I'm using Sonnet. You can go for default ones. Right, likely you're gonna have with default ones if you're setting it on the first time. With Opus 4.6 with 1 million context, Sonnet has 200,000 context window, and Opus has 1 million context window, which is like the most capable model. But also remember, this also use more tokens, so you're likely gonna hit your usage limit quickly if you're using Opus 4.6. So I always recommend using Sonnet 4.6 when you're trying out things, when you're building things, when you're working complex feature that requires multi-file reasoning or in large code base, go with Opus 4.6. And if you're just exploring the code base, pick Haiku. Haiku is good for fast works, as mentioned in here. So I'm gonna keep on selecting Sonnet, select cost, like how much cost I have here. So right now, as you can see, we are on the subscription model. That's why we don't have to worry about cost. But if you're on API usage model, then you would have to be very worried about this. You have to be very aware of this because cost is very important on pay as you go, because it can creep up pretty quickly. Then you have the config. Config shows like what is your config is right now, how you configure your Claude Code. So I'm gonna escape that, and I'm gonna go another mode, that is another command, which is like exit, for you to exit out of the session. So I'm gonna close it. So that is like the main this is like the main commands that you're gonna be using with Claude Code. And I think the most important one and most efficient one would be like compact. Among all the command, I think compact command is the most important one because it helps you compact your conversation into sizable chunks and make sure that you do not lose important context for Claude to continue operating in that current session. Another important command that you have in Claude Code is /resume command. It helps you look through all the sessions that you have in this particular project and continue using that session. So Claude also has different modes. You can run it in auto mode, or you can run it in just skip permission. In this way, basically, Claude will not ask you for permission for editing a sensitive file or anything like that. And one quirk with Claude is it will always ask you if you want to allow Claude to make those changes. So if you run it on just skip permission, it is going to bypass all the permission. It's not going to ask you for any kind of confirmation of any command that's running. I do not recommend it unless you're running it from a VM, or you're running it from a machine where you do not have it at important where you don't have important information that is okay for you to lose. So if you are working on your personal computer or work computer where you have important data that you do not want to lose, make sure to properly review everything that Claude is generating, every command that Claude is running. But generally it's safe, but you can never guarantee the output or the command that LLM might want to run. So just be aware of that. Another different mode is you can also have auto accept edits on, where basically you let Claude auto change your files. Rather than running commands, it'll just gonna change your files and it's not gonna ask permission for you, which is a recommended way. I think you can do this because it's just gonna update your files. It's not gonna run any sensitive commands without your permission. It's just gonna update your file. And then you can ship through plan mode, which is like the most important mode, I would say, for any kind of efficient Claude usage. We're going to look into it later, but just know that this is also important mode, plan mode, which you do basically before you start any work. You plan everything so that when you start working with Claude Code, Claude knows exactly what it needs to do. And also you have normal mode, where everything that your Claude will generate will ask you, even if any fine changes, you will have to manually approve this. So I think initially go with this flow, and once you're comfortable, you trust Claude, go with auto accepts on, and before you do the plan, any kind of changes, go to the plan mode, which will show. And to also save tokens, you can also do @ to mention any files that you want Claude to look at. For example, I can select index.html. That file is selected, so Claude knows exactly what it needs to look for in the code base. One thing that you must remember is always open Claude Code inside a project repository, because that way Claude have access to that project repository. Otherwise, it will not be able to access that code base. So make sure you're always using Claude Code inside your project repository so that it has all the context it needs for that particular project. So that was a lot of stuff. We went through all the commands. We went through how to go to different modes of Claude Code, and we also see how you can basically resume a session and stuff like that. So now start looking at real project. So I opened Claude Code in a terminal inside my IDE, and this is a project, like a really old project. I haven't worked on this project for a while. I think it was I last worked on this project like 2 years ago. There was no Claude Code back then. So this is a very old project. I haven't made any changes on this code base. I don't have all the latest context on this code base because that's been almost 2 years. So if you're working on this or project like this, so you might have a project like this as well. So let's see how we can utilize Claude Code to actually get the most out of it for this particular code base. So this code base, the first thing that you need to do when you open Claude Code in any project that you run is go with the init command that will initialize a claude.md file in your code base, and it serves like the entry point for Claude Code for the entire project, and it tries to compress all the important information that it needs for the project in this particular claude.md file. So once you run init, it's just gonna explore all the code base in this project and try to get the idea of what this code base does and try to summarize this in that particular claude.md file. So I just run it. Once that's running, it's going to explore the code base and sit back, relax, and we're going to see. And once that's done, we're going to see what it generates. So explore code base structure is done. So Claude just explored the entire code base, and it took 45 seconds, 40,000 tokens, and 30 tool usage, and it generated this claude.md file. If you look at the file, you can see this file provides guidance to Claude Code when working with code in this repository. In other words, it gives Claude Code the context that it needs to run in this project. And you can see it got all the comments that should be right as far as I remember. And it also gets the dev server running where it should be running. It got the environment variable. It got the tech stack correct. Yes, we're using React Flow, Tailwind CSS, Shadcn, and Redux UI. And this is a graph visualization dashboard that renders 100 plus nodes, which makes sense and match up with what it does. So for example, if we look at the README that I wrote, I think 2 years ago, you can see it's a map visualization. You can see different data visualization in this map. So you can see, yeah, got the tech stack. I think we have the tech stack running here. Installation setup. Let's see. Technologies used. We have the technologies used here. So used React for UI, React Flow for the graph visualization, TypeScript, Tailwind CSS for styling, JSON server for mock API, and ShadCN and Redux UI for the components. So it got it correct. And we also have the Python that it got correct. I think it picked up as well. Like, yeah, it got the Python here as well. And it also mentioned the key files that is necessary for this code base here as well, so that Claude can always read this file if it needs to run any new session in Claude Code, inside Claude Code. And it also got the path alias that we have in configured, and performance patterns here as well, like Node.js. This is for, I think, React Flow, the library for rendering those complex map or nodes, and also Cypress, that is our testing library. So I think overall this is a good summary of the code base. So if you think this is correct, you can just accept it and click on yes, or if you don't like it, you can click on no, and you can ask Claude to include any other information that you think Claude should include in this particular MD file. In my case, I think it got it mostly correct, so I'm just gonna hit on yes, and it is gonna write that file in my code repository. So you can see it just wrote that file in my code repository in the code base. So now Claude has the context. Now you can start asking Claude different question about this code base. So for example, I can ask it, what does this code base do? And it's gonna think about this, and it's gonna give me an answer. It's thinking with me therefore, and immediately it's starting to give me some answers. So for example, you can see it's an interactive network graph visualization dashboard built for visualizing large network topologies, designed with NetMaker style networks in mind. So what it does, it fetches network Node.js from a REST API, which is correct, and that it handles 1000 plus nodes, edges with performance optimization, let users explore network visually, search nodes, click a node, show node details, color code nodes by status, and support dark theme and system themes, which is correct. And this is what this project does, as far as I remember. So I can also see, yeah, I think it does. Like there's this video, yeah, it does that. So I think that's mostly correct. And also, for example, it also listed the cluster network JSON that generates 1000 plus nodes arranged in 6 geographic clusters generated by a Python script. So I think it got most of the context correct. Now let's think about a change in the code base that I want to make with Claude Code. So for example, it listed this cluster network graph.json, right? Generate.py, read this file and suggest any improvements, and I could just hit enter, right? But I'm not gonna do that. When you're trying to do something like this, change your mode to plan mode. That way Claude is not thinking about generating code immediately, rather it's going through this file, thinking it through, architecting decision, thinking, okay, what is the prompt asking for? How can I efficiently support this? And what do I need to do to make sure I get this feature done? So this is a very generic prompt. I would always ask you to give more specific. For example, I said such any improvements. This is a very vague statement. Always try to go with more clear statement. For example, I would say, read this file and make sure that it can generate. So, right, make sure it can generate 20,000 nodes, right? This is a very basic ask, but still I'm going to use plan mode, but I want to make sure that we are being specific so that Claude doesn't wander off thinking what it needs to do, right? So I'm just going to enter, and it's now going to read the file, and it's going to do the plan for this particular change. So as you can see, Claude went to that file, and then it generated a plan for me to review. It did not start writing code immediately. Rather, it's asking for me to review the plan so that I can give it the go ahead that, okay, the plan looks good, you can start implementing. So let's see what it did with the plan mode, right? So it created a plan saying scale generate.py to 20,000 nodes. And the context is the script currently generates 1000 nodes with a hard-coded config variable. The user wants it to produce 20,000 nodes instead. So what it needs to do, it needs to change in graph.py update the number of nodes to 20,000. It's a very straightforward change, but I want to make sure that it reads the file correctly, it does not wander off with different things. And it did correctly read the thing. Okay, it also went through the number of random connections and other necessary IP generation and stuff like that I need to generate to make sure the nodes are generated for a specific IPs for the clustering. So it also mentioned specifically the critical file, the root of the repo. And also, if you notice at the bottom, it's very importantly mentions this verification, saying once you generate it, don't just generate it. Make sure you run this command and confirm the script runs without any errors, and it also updates the JSON where it has now 20,000 nodes and the entries. Now in this plan you have three options. You can accept it and also run auto accept, saying now Claude will automatically update all the files. You don't have to manually approve it, or you can manually approve these edits. If you want to review every single change, then this should be the way. You should manually approve the edits. If you don't want to do it, if you want to vibe code something, let's say you want to make a prototype quickly, then you can go with auto accept edits. That should be fine. And if you do not like the plan, if you want to change anything about the plan, you can write it in here and Claude will update the plan accordingly to accommodate those changes. In this case, I think it's great. In this case, I think it got it mostly right because it's a very straightforward, simple change. So I'm just gonna click on yes and manually approve edits just for now so that we can see how it generates those codes. So now it's reading through the file and finally trying to make changes. As you can see, it's changing the number of nodes from 1,000 to 20,000, updating the number of random connection, which is important to make sure the graph is random. You can click on yes, and that should automatically update the code, right? So I'm not gonna run this code right now, but you can definitely see. So once the changes are done, you can see it also gives you a summary saying this is what changed. So in this way, you can maintain your legacy code base, or you can start a new project and start writing it with Claude Code. Exactly following this process, you just have to go back and forth, review things, and make sure that whatever is generating supports the plan that you just generated. That's why it's very important that you go with the plan, because that helps Claude to stay focused. It has a lot of capabilities, but it does not know what to build for you. You have to tell it specifically what you want it to build. That is the most important job you have right now. You no longer have to write code manually. You have to make sure you understand how to do with intent, how to code with intent, how to know what you want to build. So to summarize, the best way to use Claude Code, make sure, number one, make sure you're being specific with your ask. Do not give vague prompts and expect Claude to generate good code for you. Make sure you're being very specific on what you want it to do. And always when you're starting a new project, make sure you're running the init command so that you're generating the claude.mb file that gives Claude all the necessary context that it needs to work better in the code base. Always use the plan mode to start working on any particular important feature or change or anything like that, so that Claude knows exactly what it needs to do for that particular request. And always compact early so that Claude doesn't hit its context limits that will significantly reduce the quality of your code. And always make sure to match the model to the task so that you get the best result out of Claude Code. Like if you're using complex reasoning task, go for Copilot 4.6. If you're using regular task, go with Sonnet. And if you're using exploration of the code base, Haiku is perfectly fine for you. So that's everything that you need. You got your plan picked, Claude Code installed, and you know the commands that you need to run to use Claude Code every day. If this video helped, hit the like and subscribe button. I'll be doing more videos on advanced Claude Code workflows, custom/commands, agents, Claude.mb best practices, and a lot of other cool Claude Code features. So drop a comment and let me know what you build with it. I'll see you in the next one.